How's it going, everybody? My name is Box from Box and Jackalope, and welcome back to another Kun-Lai Campfire. This week, I'm joined by co-host Banarak. Jakai will be back for future episodes. This one's just us this week. But Kai, if you're watching this, we miss you, buddy.
He is with us in spirit.
He is. I can sense him, like, he's secretly actually just, like, right next to me right now. But
he's like a force ghost.
This is what happens when, like, Ban and I are left unchecked from Jakai, is we just go off on these tangents. Usually I just annoy Ban every day anyway about this stuff. This episode's a little bit overdue, but I think it's still relevant nonetheless because it's essentially another epilogue of Dragonflight. We got the 10.2.5 storylines released last month, and, like, I want to start with overall thoughts, and then we'll go through the 3 storylines that were added and little things that we liked. I think that's probably a good place to start this week. So, like, my overall thoughts on the patch is, I honestly felt it was really well done. And I remember, if you all watched our other podcasts where we talked about the ending of the raid and how, like, we didn't hate it, but it felt like a little bit cheesy. I really think a lot of those complaints were addressed in, I want to take back a lot of the stuff I said with, like, the epilogue of Dragonflight. A lot of wholesome moments that happened, and it makes me really scared for the future in the War Within. Not at the quality, but, like, what might happen to our characters, right? Like, I'm really afraid we're in the calm before the storm right now, and I think a lot of our favorite characters are in danger, but a lot of our favorite characters got some good send-offs too. So, like, we had the Gilneans quest line, and it is safe to talk about spoilers at this point, where Gen Greymane effectively hands the mantle of leadership to his daughter Tess at the end of it, and he says that basically he can't change with the world right now. He can't see the Horde not as monsters because of what they did to his son, and I love the way they handled that storyline. You also get a nice ending for Malfurion and Tyrande, where they finally get a much needed rest after everything they've been through in Legion, Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands. The Night Elves have not had it easy. And one of my favorite scenes, and we can get into that, was the hug between Chandris and Tyrande and Malfurion. It was super wholesome. And we also got an epilogue scene with the aspects, basically kind of just recapping what happened, you know? And a scene between Eridikron and Viranoth. I'm kind of going on a tangent right now, Ban, and I've kind of scratched the surface, but we'll get a little bit more in depth with each of those subjects. But really good stuff. Like, I honestly, I hope we continue to get these every expansion as a bridge, because we still have another one coming that was teased, for Dragonflight. But yeah, I would give, story-wise, I want to give the patch like an A, I would say. Like, there's some things that maybe could have felt like a little bit longer, like the Gilneans scenario was a little short, I thought, for how big of an event it was, but it wasn't bad. I think that's the thing, like, I've seen people call it bad. I don't think it was bad. In fact, I think it was pretty well done, considering, and I do like that the Horde doesn't get like the full ending that the Alliance got with it. But Ben, I'll throw it off to you for your thoughts. I apologize. I always go on this is like the box rant of the podcast every week, I've noticed at the start, where I just, like, start rambling about all the little things that are added.
I mean, if there's a box rant, there's always going to be a Ban rant. That's just kind of, it is perfectly balanced, as all things should be, as I like to say. I quite liked this little mini patch. We always have to remember, in regards to these patches, these are small little baby patches. These are not those big, giant, chonky patches like, I don't know, the Sarkrath patch or the Farak patch, as I'll call them in Dragonflight. No, these are the small, tiny patches, and I have gone saying that Dragonflight, I think its strongest patches have unironically been their smaller ones. So I quite liked this one. As you said, it had the reclamation of Gilneans, which I feel like was like the driving force for this patch. But you also had the epilogue in Midrisil. We finally got to visit a Midrisil. It's kind of funny how this patch had the Horde visit 2 Alliance capitals, basically, and we're allowed to visit them. Curious if they're gonna do something along the lines of that for the Alliance somewhere down the line. Are they gonna have the Alliance be able to visit Kazan? Are they gonna let the Alliance visit, I don't know, a new Darkspear capital? I mean, I'm not against it. It's just, it's funny when you think about it. But I quite liked all of the little moments. I'll start out with like all of the, you know, from the moments that I can remember at the very least, because this is us doing the podcast. What, it's been like a couple weeks now, something like that.
Yeah, it's been I think the middle of January where we did the Eridicron video with the thumbnail with the Eridicron.
Okay, well, obviously, we'll start with that. I really liked the moment between Eridicron and Vironoth. I almost called her for Eridicron. Weird ship name, I guess. I don't know. Wait, they're siblings. I retract my statement. But I really liked the moment there between them and Eridicron basically telling Vironoth, you know, hey, here's what's up. You know, like, I like that because the Incarnates were in my opinion, my favorite part of Dragonflight. So them getting almost a send-off to the fact that they are no longer really a thing, which is sad. Like, I feel like we could have had them more within Dragonflight, but at the same time, I feel like every time we got them, it was always a treat. Mm-hmm. But this was basically, they're done. They're no longer a thing. Eridicron is the last Incarnate, really. Razagath and Farak are both gone, and Vironoth is now just an aspect. So yeah, the Incarnates, they're done. There's only one of them left, and he's off on his Titan revenge quest, and we're not gonna see him again until probably Last Titan, as he has said, because he said he's not coming back until it's time to take down the Titans, and we know the Titans are coming back in Last Titan, but I don't know if we'll see him in War Within or Midnight. I'd be down for it, but I just feel like we're not gonna defeat him or fight him as much. But I do like that he warns Vironoth to stay out of his way, and I am curious if, obviously there's a lot of back and forth on this discussion. I think Eridicron should be a full-fledged bad guy. I don't think they should turn him into an anti-hero. I don't think that they should make him a good guy. I'm not against it, but I just think that as of right now, I want him to be our big bad. I want him to be the guy who kills a Titan. Not just kills a Titan, I want him to kill the entire Pantheon, except maybe like one of them. Maybe like Aman'Thul escapes or something.
Man, my favorite moment was when Eridicron was just hiding under the snow in that cinematic.
There are memes of people being like, did he time travel and he's just been waiting there for thousands of years? And I was just like, guys, no. We see him leave the portal to go talk to present-day Xal'atath. You really think that he's gonna wait there patiently for that long just to do a bit? To
be fair, he's a pretty crafty guy. I could see him being a.
He was that patient. So in line with that, hold on, let me talk about that. I think that people didn't actually think about this too much when they saw the cinematic, but I think Eridicron has a new power.
What's that?
Or he always had this power. So in the cinematic, obviously he emerges from that little mountaintop, and then he disappears. Interestingly enough, with the disappearance, it's not void related at all. A storm emerges around him and he's gone. So can he just teleport wherever there's Earth now? That's my speculation, because I don't think that was Xal'atath blipping him or him using Void to teleport. I think that's just him being able to teleport with the Earth. Which, if that's the case, that sounds like a really cool fight mechanic, where he's just like disappearing. That's such an anime power of just him disappearing and blipping around all over the place. I hope that's the case. Anyways, I was gonna basically say I really like that he basically warns Vironoth, and that it could lead to Eridicron maybe being a potential ally, or not really. Like, I like the idea of him maybe being our ally for a split second, and then him being like, alright, I'm gonna kill these Titans. But, I don't know. But, in line with that, because I don't think you mentioned it, I really like that, Caligo steps down from the Council of Six. I wonder who's gonna replace him. My bet is Aethys. That would make the most sense to bring him back on board. And then there's also the stuff with Rathian and Sibelian. I've always liked those two. They were probably the highlight of the expansion for me, because I really liked Sibelian, and having him as a full-fledged character was a welcome surprise. Was not expecting him to be as important as he was in Dragonflight. It makes sense, though,
I love the screen time he got in Dragonflight, to be honest. Like, he was, honestly, one of my favorite bits was just him bickering with Rathian in the Waking Shore, like at the launch patch. That was fun.
Yeah, I think that he had the best arc, honestly, of the three brothers, because, you know, he had this intense fear of becoming his father, and he was the most like his father, so his fear was a little bit more, in my opinion, way more possible, way more potential, especially since he was the only one who got corrupted by the Shadow Flame, but it was immediately cleansed thanks to Abyssian. I think Abyssian and Sibelian also had a better relationship, comparatively, because we really just didn't get to have Rathian interact with Abyssian as much. But we did get to have that in the Drakthir starting zone, I guess, but it wasn't as good, in my opinion, compared to the Sibelian stuff. But, we have Sibelian and Rathian interact, and Rathian outright says, like, I feel more comfortable with the mortals, and, I'm gonna go hunt this Erudicron fellow. And I really like that, because it gives Erudicron a new rival, and it's perfect because in the Scaleborn novel, we are confirmed, we get the confirmation that Neltharion and Erudicron were rivals, and they fought each other, and they were friends once too. So I'd love to see that sort of stuff get focused on, and Erudicron, like, comparing Rathian to Neltharion, because, like, we figured that storyline was over, but this kind of brings it back up a bit, in my opinion. So,
right, with Rathian saying he's gonna basically go after Erudicron, like, that is some badass stuff, man. That's a good setup.
It makes sense too. It makes sense too, because Rathian was the first one to ever bring up the Last Titan as a quote, as a line, back all the way back in Mist of Pandaria. So to have Erudicron and a Rathian go head-to-head and involved in a Titan storyline, I feel like that could be really cool in War Within, to have Rathian as a pivotal character to help take down Erudicron. And you can have Erudicron compare him to Neltharion and be like, you know, either in a mocking way or even in a genuinely positive way, because we kind of got that with Razagath very briefly. And as nice as it wasn't as, in my opinion, personal. I think Erudicron will be very personal for Rathian, and maybe if they want to go the wholesome route, he'll be able to convince Erudicron that, like, again, this goes back to, like, I'm not entirely against Erudicron being redeemed, but I'm also kind of like, well, if you have him kill all the Titans, I'm not sure he's redeemable as you think. But then again, we got Sylvanas on the Entombment arc, so you could probably put Erudicron on the same path if you really want to go down there. And that really depends if the Titans actually are really bad eggs, because the Titans have always been kind of like gray, but they've also been kind of on our side.
It's really hard to get like a good read on them sometimes, but it has seemed like they're on our side for the most part. But then again, at BlizzCon, Metzen said we're going to question everything, so we'll see.
We should have been questioning... I think we should have been questioning everything since Algalon, because Algalon was a whole situation back in Wrath, where Algalon outright admitted, hey, I literally burned worlds and I felt nothing when doing it, and that's how I was created. So how does that kind of factor in with how the Titans feel about that?
Right.
Do they have emotions? Do they have these sorts of feelings?
Something I really liked in the cinematic was, like, Erudicron had, like, the expression on his face looked like he was kind of sad that Fëanor wasn't going to be on his side anymore. Did you get that vibe too?
Yes, I did. I'm glad you brought that up too, because in the book, Vironoth was actually Erudicron's favorite of all of their siblings, and it makes sense because Vironoth was kind of she was confirmed the oldest dragon at the time, so Vironoth is still probably the oldest dragon of dragonkind at this point, but she was the fan favorite of all of dragons. Like, she just was the sweet, nice lady who wanted to hang out with baby dragons, and Erudicron, you know, he did factor in like some evil schemes in regards to her, but he never. One of the things I really appreciated about Erudicron in the book is he still respected her decision not to become an incarnate initially. But then when he got the details that the Titans were going against their word and were experimenting on babies without their permission, he was like, I gotta tell Vironoth this immediately because it will change her perspective and make her join my cause. It wasn't malicious, but at the same time, it kind of was. It was... people who say Erudicron is a boring character, I really don't agree with them, because he is a very... I will say he is kind of one note in some regard, but he's also very calculative and very... You could tell that this cause meant something to him. It wasn't just him being a dick for being a dick's sake. It was him being... He was very passionate about this whole war and conflict and cause, and it's one of the reasons why I don't think he can let this go.
And okay, and what you said there, Ban, if you compare it to a character, like, I hate to say it, right, but like I see people compare him and the Jailer constantly, and Erudicron has passion behind what he believes in, and he's just so much cooler than the Jailer and has more personality, more charisma. Like, he's actually going through with his plans and doing something instead of saying he's gonna do something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well,
he's not like a mustache twirler either. Like, it doesn't seem like that. Like, he's just... Erudicron's a badass, man. Like, he's a badass dude.
I just am very... I didn't get to talk on it before, but to finish up Erudicron talks, because we kind of... Rathian is for the future, definitely, with Erudicron, and I'm glad for that, because Rathian's one of my favorite dragons, like, legit. Like, I'm sad that he's not an aspect, but at the same time, at the very least, they're not going, he's not doing anything anymore. They're going, no, because he's not an aspect, we get to do more with him, which is fine. I like that. It's a good caveat. It's a good way of, you know, approaching the character going forward. But with Erudicron, I'm just happy that he is a future villain. He's not abandoned or forsaken or forgotten about compared to some other villains, compared to some other characters. They could have easily just had him die in Dragonflight to one patch or something.
I remember when they were first revealed, everybody thought he was going to be the last boss. It was going to be like, okay, Farak, Vironoth, and Erudicron, and that was not the case. Like, I was shocked when we found out Farak was the last boss of Dragonflight. Absolutely shocked. I love Farak too, don't get me wrong, but I was shocked.
I definitely... It's very interesting looking back on my first initial thoughts and feelings towards these characters, because when Erudicron was first revealed, I was like, okay, he's kind of a Deathwing-ish looking proto-dragon. He's probably going to have a lot of similarities to Deathwing, and I wasn't wrong there, but I figured his goal was going to be more about freeing the old gods. That's what I thought his whole thing was going to be. I figured he was going to be aligned with Yogg-Saron or Galakrond or something, because that's what we were told in the interviews, that he was a Galakrond follower. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Does not. But, everything that I thought about Erudicron changed. And instead of, like, him being kind of like I'll say, like, my first little thoughts were like, he's probably going to be an okay villain. You know, I thought he was like... Yeah, he'll be alright. I like him. Like, he's got good presentation and a good design, which is always good. But the moment we saw his visage, the moment that we got more of his character, and, like, the fact that he is one of the first villains to say, do not underestimate them, I fell in love with the character instantly. He is... I said this to Box earlier when we were talking before the podcast, but he is probably, and he has the potential even, to be a better villain than Gul'dan and Garrosh. Now, I'm not saying that he will, but I'm saying he has the potential. Already, I like him just about the same level as them. Will I like him more than Garrosh? Probably not. Garrosh is a very dear character to me, in terms of villainy goes, but I am just very impressed with the appearance and his personality, and I'll end it there. But that's regards to Rotocron.
I think you and I could easily gush about the Incarnates for a long, long time. They're very good.
I'm gonna go. If you need a video on it, it's a little dated in regards to some of the stuff, but you can check out a video I did talking about the Incarnates and how all of them are really good. I ran a little bit about Razageth in the video, but even then I still say that she's fine.
Is Sarkareth in it?
I think I mentioned him. I think I do.
I
think I mentioned how I like that he gets used by the Incarnates. Nothing very substantial there for you, but but in regards to the other stuff in the patch, there's the Reclamation of Gilneans. I'm glad the Horde are a part of it. Kind of shocked that people were a little upset about that, but at the same time, I kind of get it. It is a very Alliance-themed storyline, so... But I liked that the Horde... one of my biggest issues, and I didn't really get to talk about this during Shadowlands, I didn't like the goofiness of the Alliance dressing up as a pretend Forsaken and just helping out as pretending to be members of the Horde. No, they should have just been straight up Alliance helping. I don't really see a problem with that. And I'm glad they didn't repeat that here with the Reclamation of Gilneans storyline. And the Reclamation of Gilneans storyline has been something that's been foreshadowed all the way back since Cataclysm, so it's a decade in the making storyline, which is probably why a lot of people were let down by it just a little bit. I'm just glad it happened in-game, and we got something out of it. And I think the main thing that I liked out of it was Tess getting to shine, because I've always been a Tess fan. I have been a Tess fan since, I'd say, Legion? I was always fascinated. I've been fascinated by her since Cataclysm, but Legion is when she finally got to shine as a character. And then they finally got her to do more as time has gone on, and now she's the official leader. Oh yeah, spoilers, I guess, but that kind of goes hand in hand with our podcast. It's been weeks, you're fine. She's the new leader of the Gilneans and Worgen people, and I'm really hoping that means she'll become a Worgen down the line. I know some people are saying, well, she doesn't have to be a Worgen, but I like the idea of her being a Worgen. I think that's be a really cool cinematic whenever they do that. I just think it'd be really good to have that. I also hope that, because we have technically several new leaders for the Alliance in this patch. I'll be talking about the Night Elf stuff shortly. Fortunately, there's not a lot in this patch to, like, really stop on. We have... There's a chunk, but there's not, like, a huge chunk where I'm going to run out of breath.
So, Ben, do you know what I really, really liked about the Tess and Gen cinematic? When she talks about Liam to Gen, how, like, you know, I think she says, like, he was the king that he always wanted, but she always cared about Gen even when he didn't really look to her sometimes. You remember that part?
You said Gen instead of Liam, but I get exactly what you mean.
Like he was always focused on Liam, he didn't pay attention to Tess sometimes.
I really liked the approach that they did, because that is true. Mm-hmm. Not only Liam, but Anduin. When Liam died, Gen had a hole in his heart that he filled with Anduin, and that was a really good... Because that was always something that I picked at, that I looked at. I was like, Gen is projecting here. Anduin needed a father, and Gen needed a son. So the two kind of completed one another. But in doing so, he kind of neglected Tess. And Tess was in mourning too. Tess needed just as much of attention. And I liked that they approach that in the storyline. I do agree with people that they should have done more with this, that they should have been like the focal point of the entire quest line, really. But I think one of the parts that I really liked, and that maybe some people don't like, but I like that Gen basically admits that this is it, that he needs to step down. This is not the world that he can live in, or lead in rather, because the world is changing too much, and it's changing at such a fast rate that he really can't do what he used to do. He is a man from the Second War. He is a leader from the Second War. And the Horde was very different back then. they were led by very corrupted people, very different people. They lived in an era where the Alliance was nothing but an enemy, and that Azeroth was just a new home for them, that they were not going to, step up as protectors, but instead as invaders. As much as I love the Horde.
It's something...
Yeah. Well,
I just want to say, like, really quick about that line in particular. I strongly feel Gen is one of the best written characters in, like, the Warcraft universe. He's been consistent the whole time. He's had a lot of good moments, too. Like, I've never really seen him felt like he was sidelined. Like, I actually love his fight between him and Sylvanas and Stormheim. I thought that was really well done. The scene at the Broken Shore, I got goosebumps. And, like, just his attitude towards people, like him mentoring Anduin, like, he's just been consistent. And I think this storyline, like, that's such a poetic edge as character. It's like, I can't change with the world. I can't see it through the eyes of Tess. But then you have Tess, who worked with the Horde in Legion, who can see how the world's changing and adapt to it. It's such a really poetic end to his character, and the Greymane legacy lives on too through Tess, and I think that's really, really cool. I also, this is not to change the subject too much off of Gen, but the Scarlet Crusade stuff was pretty interesting in Gilneas. I wasn't, like, when they announced the quest, I wasn't quite expecting Scarlet Crusaders, but the villain, how she, like, turned into that, like, light elemental thing, that was, it's interesting, considering we're getting to that void stuff, and we might be getting to light stuff in this arc. Especially...
We're 100% getting light stuff, because the Army of the Light's going to show up in Midnight. That was confirmed by Mr. Metzen.
And with that zone, too, with the light and void crystal and War Within, like... I'm excited, man. I can't wait.
When the whole Scarlet Crusade stuff started, I will say I do wish it was something more along the lines of, like, fighting Ivar and his Feral Worgen, or fighting Crowley, or maybe even fighting, like, undead Scarlet Crusaders. I don't know, something where it would have fit more with the themes of, Cataclysm's Gilneas. But at the same time, I get, like, they didn't want to have us fight the Forsaken because the Forsaken were supposed to be helping. But it would have been nice if we had, I guess separate storylines maybe. I don't know, there's too much to ask in that type of thing. I'm okay with it being both the Alliance and Horde working together against the Scarlet Crusade. It's also kind of cool because it's a continuation of the Forsaken Heritage questline. So, and that makes sense to me because you're completing... you're finishing a story with this, and it makes sense because the Gilneas itself and Silverpine itself were completed arcs and storylines of the Gilneas storyline, the Worgen starting zone. I always thought that was really cool that they did that.
I want to throw you in the hot seat, man.
You're gonna throw me in the hot seat.
So
Damn, I'm not even finished what I'm saying.
I apologize.
All right, ask your hot seat question.
What did you think of Kalia Menethil in the quest line?
Kalia Menethil is such a very perplexing subject, because on one hand, I understand why people don't like her, because she is very much not a Forsaken character, or not a Forsaken character that we're used to. We are used to other things from the Forsaken. I'd say Voss is probably the better approach to the type of character that they want with Kalia. I think that one of the things I've said like this about Kalia, I think she's fine in doses, but you gotta let the other characters shine. I think the problem is we're getting a little too much Kalia, also not enough Kalia. It's very weird how that works, but I think that one, Kalia needs to have a visual change, and also a little bit more... I said this, I think, on Twitter. No, I don't think I ever said this on Twitter. I was going to, but then I deleted it, or I didn't say it. But I think that one of the things that could help with Kalia is if she interacted with more than just the Forsaken, because she's supposed to be a Horde character. And I think one of the problems people has with her is she just keeps interacting with just Forsaken and Alliance. But we don't see her interact outside of the book, I should say that. Outside of the book, what's it called? It's a really good book. Shadows Rising. Outside of Shadows Rising, where she interacts with both Thrall and Tyrande. And also in that one little blip scene where she gets yelled at by Tyrande when they enter the Maw. But I think that one thing, that's just a few things that would help with Kalia as a character, is just have her interact with more than just the Forsaken, but also have her just kind of interact with the Horde, be a member of the Horde, and just maybe we have to see less of her being a diplomat. Maybe we need to see her kind of like deal with the aggression and like, I don't know, just throw her, as you said, throw her in the hot seat, like you're doing to me. I think that, in my own personal opinion, I would have preferred it if it was Belmont instead of Kalia with this. I get it, though, why they chose Kalia, because she was the one who promised to help reclaim Gilneas back during the Shadowlands epilogue questline,
right,
where she was like, yeah, I'll help you get Gilneas back. It makes sense that she's there. It makes sense that she's a part of it. I feel like maybe they should have then toyed more with the whole Scarlet Crusade stuff that was propping up in Battle for Azeroth, where they claim to have the son of Menethil.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering because that storyline isn't done with. The Scarlet Crusade is not done, by the way. There's still the Scarlet Brotherhood out there. They're still existing. So this is just like, I feel like, the start to their story. But I feel like they could have done more with it, which is unfortunate. I feel like the problem is it's just such a small patch, and you can only do so much with a small patch and a small questline like this. But I feel like if you're going to have Kalia, have her interact more with the Scarlet Crusade in a negative way. In the same vein that that Voss did. There's just a storyline there that they need to tell with both of them. And that faction specifically, but I'm very, I'd say, neutral towards Kalia. I like her. I don't hate her, but I'm not like a mega fan of her. Like, she's fine. She exists.
That's kind of how I feel about her too. Not to take the words out of your mouth either. Like she's just kind of there for me. Like I think I definitely prefer the other Forsaken characters because they're just Forsaken-y. Like I like Dark Ranger Valinora. She's really cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the other Crusaders, goodness, the other council members should be shown more. And like, you can have Kalia there as like a one-note character that says something or does something, but I think that they really need to do something that wins Kalia over. And I think a while ago I said that they should have her when the light becomes more of a vocal point in the WoW's storyline. You should have the light show up and be like, hey, you need to have the Forsaken join us, embrace our light, they can become just like you. And you have Kalia say no. And the moment she says no, she like strips herself of the light, becomes more of like a shadow variant Forsaken. She no longer has that glow, she no longer has these bright colors. She basically becomes more like Nathanos in terms of like looks or appearances. She still has that living human look, I guess, if you really want to go that path. You could still also make her look more like Voss, where she's kind of decaying. But I'm okay with them making her look like a female version of Nathanos, where she keeps her looks, but she still has like that aesthetic that people like in Forsaken. I think I did art of it. I could throw it at you that you can use in the video, but I made it like a Forsaken version of Kalia. But that's what I would do. I would have her reject the light and have her be like, no, the Forsaken are my people, not the light. Screw you. And I feel like that would make people appreciate Kalia more, because it would be her basically telling off the light in favor of the Forsaken. And I think that would win people over more.
Right.
Because that's what her character in general has just been, these are my people and I love them, regardless of what they think of me. And having her choose her people over the light that has been so welcoming and so appreciative of her. She's alive because the light wanted her alive. So to have her reject the light and choose her people, I think, and like lose that appearance, lose that glamour would I think help out a lot, both in the aesthetics that people want for her, but also just the story they want for her too, because right now she is too human-y. But going back to what I was saying about Tess and that story, I've always been a big fan of Tess, and I'm glad that they have her as their leader. I think the only caveat is I want her to become a Worgen. And also, one of the things that this will become also with Malfurion and Tyrande, but with Gen, I don't think that Gen is done in the story. I think that he's just done as a leader of the Alliance, or, you know, the leader of the Alliance. I think that he'll still show up now and then, maybe, in the story. Just not as a smaller character, or he'll make a comeback, you know, if the story needs him. And in approach to that, there's also Malfurion and Tyrande, who are stepping down. Now we get to see them in Midrisil, the new Alliance capital. It's very pretty, and I like that the Horde can visit it. That'll be cool for roleplay purposes and maybe even machinima purposes. But I really like the moment between Tyrande and Chandris there, because it gives confirmation that, one, the land of the Night Elves is still very dear to their hearts. It's not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They're still staying on Kalimdor. This is just a new home for them, and those homes are staying up. And also, they confirm that Teldrassil will eventually be fixed up. So that will be cool whenever that happens in the story. I suspect that'll happen in a world revamp. Guarantee it, 100%. They're ramping up that world revamp eventually, and that'll be one of the new additions. So I feel like the new one that they got in the Dragon Isles, that'll just be one of their capitals. They'll probably have like multiple going forward whenever the world revamp happens. But yeah, Darnassus and Teldrassil, they're coming back. And Malfurion, he's finally back. We were teased that was going to happen. And we get a nice, one of the first hugs and kisses.
It was so wholesome. Hugs. That cinematic was so wholesome. And like, I'm not even a Night Elf fan, and
yeah.
I really liked the ending to their storyline. And the fact, Ben, you already brought it up, and you transitioned nicely into the segment. The fact that like we're going back, like they're gonna have Teldrassil still and all the different homes of the Night Elves. Blizzard saved that storyline with that bit right there for so many people, and it made me like, I think we've talked about this before, and I don't want to get too much on Teldrassil because it's such a yucky part of the story, but like, you know, as Horde, like a lot of us didn't want to participate in that, and like at the very least, us helping the Night Elves this patch with Emir Dracel and helping fix, you know, what our faction essentially caused, regardless of if we were a part of it or not, was nice. I think it was nice, and it helped fix a lot of what happened. And I think they ended it as good as they could, the writers. I really do feel that.
Yeah.
And that cinematic was iconic now with Tyrande and Malfurion and stuff. I like that.
Two things from it. One, we got the first kiss in WoW. That was nice. And it's between Tyrande and Malfurion, which is the perfect people to do it. I think that we're going to see more cinematics like that down the line, which is always good.
I thought we got that with Garrosh and Warlord Zayla in Warlords.
Unfortunately not, my friend. Maybe someday. That's another barrel of pickles that we'll have to approach someday at some point. But it also, I feel like, one, yeah, exactly what you said, where like the Horde, it doesn't atone them for everything, but I think that it did its job where the Horde finally does some good for the Night Elves, and it's something that I think was the correct approach. But it also, I feel like it really recontextualized a lot of BFA, Dragonflight, Shadowlands with Tyrande, because in my view, this is a love letter of saying almost goodbye to the character. Not that she's dead, not that she's done, but she's retiring. Both her and Malfurion are retiring. Now, I have more of an issue with Malfurion retiring than Tyrande, because Tyrande I feel like was in the spotlight for a very long time, to the point where people are even feeling kind of Night Elf fatigue. Not the same vein as with the Orc fatigue, that's a whole other barrel. That is bullshit, by the way. But with the Night Elves, they definitely got, I think, a lot of screen time. Whether you liked it or not is up to you, but I do think that the Night Elves did get a lot of love and hate, depending on how you feel, especially with the Toadstool incident. But I do think that the Night Elves got a spotlight, and I do think Tyrande was the one who held that spotlight the longest, and I actually grew to like the character from it. I know Box feels differently, but I
wanted to talk about that. I'll let you finish first.
Okay, all right. Let me finish then. I grew to like the character from this storyline and through this arc. I really like her now. I do think that Malfurion should get more time in the spotlight. I really don't think we really got a chance with him comparatively. I think that Malfurion needed way more moments within this expansion and previously, especially in Shadowlands. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get more of him, especially during the Night Warrior arc. But at least we got a really cool moment of him in BFA killing a bunch of Horde soldiers. That was cool. And that, I say that as a Horde fan, so take that with a grain of salt. But I love the kiss. I love the little nod to the fact that Tyrande and Malfurion are gonna go fuck in the woods. That they were not subtle at all with that. Holy shit. And I like that they made Chandris the new leader of the Night Elves. And like I said, I hope they make both Tess and Chandris new models, like they should do for both Gazlo and Rokon and Voss. But I honestly am pretty pleased with the new leaders. Now, and I say that again because I'm a Horde fan, and I've kind of just been saying this since Kata, but the Alliance need new leaders.
They do.
You can't have the same you can't just use the same leaders over and over when you're changing the Horde rapidly as you are. So I'm happy with the new leaders of the Alliance. Now, did they do it perfectly? Maybe not. Like I said with Malfurion and Gen, I think that, in contrast to what Box said that Gen got a little bit enough. I think they could have done more with Gen, but at the same time, I do agree with you that they did a really good job with the character. Tyrande, I think that they did fine. She's okay to retire. Malfurion, I don't know. He sleeps too much.
So while we're just on the Tyrande thing, Ben, I just want to get back together. So I have gone on record, and you can go on older videos of ours saying I don't like Tyrande, and she kind of always just bored me a little bit. In retrospect, with this patch and Dragonflight, I like her a lot better. Because I won't lie to you, it was pretty wholesome seeing that scene between them. To the point of where I actually rolled a Night Elf character the first time since Vanilla. I made a Night Elf alt. I made a Night Elf Druid because I liked what they did with them this patch. I think, honestly, during Shadowlands and BFA, I was just, between that storyline and the Sylvanas one, I was just so burnt on it at the time. So when you look at something in retrospect like that, it's a little bit better. And it was just like, it just felt like it was going nowhere, the whole storyline. It like, for a while, but like just getting the conclusion to it was nice in Dragonflight. And I will say I liked the conclusion. Did I like the whole thing still? Well, but I like the way that Blizzard decided to end it. That's for sure. And I think Tyrande, like you said, it's a good point for her to stop for a while, but they're still there in the event they ever need to come back.
Yeah, they're on the shelf. They're not killing them off, which I said this again in another tweet. I tend to do that. I think it's way better for you to retire a character than to kill a character. Because if you kill a character, it's very hard to come back from that. You can't just go... Well, I was just about to bring up Vol'jin. Vol'jin is a good example. Vol'jin, you kill a character at the point where they are just starting their story. Not okay. You can feel the damage even if you do bring them back in a very, I'd say, appropriate way, because they are bringing him back in a good manner that makes sense for his story. The problem is you did it at a very bad point. You did it at a horrendous point in his storyline, to the point where people feel very negative and feel very, very disjointed, very like they lost out on something. Because we did. We lost out on Vol'jin being War Chief of the Horde. We didn't get to have him as war chief. You cannot say that we did by, saying that we did. That's not true. So I think that both Gen, Malfurion, and Tyrande, they can come back in the storyline. I really hope Malfurion does, at the very least. I do think the reason why they might be retiring Malfurion is mostly because of his voice actor being in their 70s. Now, they're not doing that with Khadgar, though, but I am wondering if they're ramping up for Khadgar's story to wrap up, too.
I'm worried about Khadgar, man. I'm really worried about him.
I think that it's so difficult because the topics of recasting a character like Khadgar and Malfurion is very difficult because they have such unique voices. And I do agree, like, it is a very touchy subject. But I ultimately think that if you can do it right, and I think Khadgar is one of those characters that they might be wrapping up his storyline because they teased that he was going to die a long time ago, and that he saw a vision. I think it was Eretor who saw the vision. I think that was Turalian though. Whatever. I think that they did hint at Khadgar's death some time ago. I think it was in Shadowlands actually. So I do think that they're teasing that with those types of characters, but goodness. Oh, I was saying that I think that the entirety of the Tyrande arc for me and throughout BFA, throughout Dragonflight, throughout Shadowlands. Why do I always do it in the wrong category, in the wrong order? It's supposed to go BFA, Shadowlands, then Dragonflight. I really liked her arc, and I loved her fights with Nathanos and Sylvanas. It's just so easy to root for them and root for her to win when Sylvanas and Nathanos were so antagonistic and negative. They literally were gloating about burning the tree and killing people at one point. So, yeah, I'd say that Tyrande was a very easy character to root for, and I loved her to pieces throughout it. It was always hard when she was harsh towards the Horde, but it was understandable. It was the same way I think Jaina was towards us during MOP. So it was understandable, and I'm glad that they kind of moved those characters away from those sorts of feelings, because the player character and lore characters like Thrall and Bane were not for Teldrassil's destruction. Nathanos and Sylvanas were, and I'm glad that the characters always acted accordingly towards them. Thrall is Tyrande's friend. Sylvanas, they barely interacted before their whole rivalry and shebang, so it makes sense for the characters to react very positively towards Thrall's arrival. And that's one of the things I also really liked about Yggdrasil is Thrall, he is the GOAT. He is the character who shows up and saves Alexstrasza, and Tyrande is just so happy that Jaina and Thrall are there, and has happy memories of them fighting Archimonde together. That was... I just really liked that there was a nod to Warcraft 3. I always love that when they do that. I know it's very pandering and very easy to do that in WoW. They do it a lot, but I love those moments, and I like that we're on a path where the Alliance and Horde are more acceptable and more working together. Now, I do think, as Box said at the start, we're wrapping up or we're getting to a darker part in WoW's history. I think Dragonflight was wholesome and nice and butterflies and biscuits and all that other stuff.
I'm gonna start saying butterflies and biscuits from now on.
I hate how you use my words. Butterflies and biscuits. I think the World Soul Saga is gonna be hella dark, and it's gonna be nightmares and hornets.
Nightmares and hornets. You heard it here first. So the Kun-Lai Campfire. Ben, I do want to say something about to kind of lead to the wrap down, because we kind of covered everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With that leading to the dark part, the next mini patch is called Dark Heart, which was referenced in this patch too.
It is reference to the good old anti-dragon. I like to call it the proto-dragon soul, because that's really what it is. It's the gem or the artifacts that Neltharion made before making the Dragon Soul, and Eridikron's the one who picks that bad boy up. And I love that kind of, continues good old Neltharion's legacy. But it's now kind of shared with Eridikron and also with Xal'atath, and I guess we're going to see what that object is going to do. My guess is, obviously, it absorbed Galakrond's essence. What else can it contain, though? Because we know that Xal'atath is farming up Old God blood.
Ooh.
So, and it's called the Dark Heart. And what does blood? What makes blood a heart? So, I'm guessing you're filling up that heart with something dark, and you start out with that with Galakrond's essence, which, in some leadway, in some people's opinions, means Yogg-Saron's essence. Which AKA means Serenite, which is one of the components that the Scourge used a lot. And
they built Icecrown Citadel out of it.
Yeah, and they also built, I'm trying to think. The blood itself is very powerful and potent, basically, and it was used a lot during Wrath of the Lich King as armaments for both the Scourge, and it was purified by the Argent Crusade and the Ebon Blade, by using the lights.
And they used it to build cool. Shadowmourne, too.
They did. It's a very powerful component. Old God Blood is very potent and very powerful. And some people were also bringing up the Dark Heart of Pandaria, which is Yasharaj's heart. So, some people are... There's so many speculations going on in regards to what Xal'atath's plan is, and even going so far as to bring up Season of Mastery as a part of that plot and scheme, where some people are thinking that Xal'atath is time traveling all over the place to grab old god stuff before it goes and disappears. So like some people think she's gonna go ahead and collect Cthulhu's stuff in the past, and Yasharaj's stuff in the past. Like some people think that the whole Pandemonium thing is gonna be Xal'atath time traveling and going like, "Hi Garrosh, I'm gonna go ahead and take some of this blood before it disappears," and she yeets the heart of Yasharaj. And we always thought that the heart kind of just dispersed and exploded, but what if she actually time traveled with that thing?
That's creepy.
Not only is it creepy, but it's convoluted, but also makes sense. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to that, because that means more Yasharaj and more Old God stuff. And there was a whole Legion thing where they believe that Xal'atath is a piece or a part of Yasharaj. I don't think that's the case anymore, but it would be kind of cool.
It would be. Xal'atath is a character I'm really, really excited for in War Within.
She's a very... I honestly was not expecting her to go this long as a character. In Battle for Azeroth, when she started doing her thing and then disappeared, I was like, okay, well, now we have a new menace out there. That's great.
Yeah.
I just Xal'atath is one of those characters that she has the potential to be on the same level as Garrosh and Eridikron. Eridikron is obviously way more fresh and way more new compared to Xal'atath, but I like build-up villains. Built-up villains are like Zul and Garrosh and N'Zoth, and even Deathwing to some degree, and Arthas too. Illidan, Arthas, a lot of the best villains in Warcraft are villains that we knew existed, and they got built up over time, and then we finally dealt with them.
I think the writers are starting to notice that big time. They're knowing what people react to good.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a villain comparatively like Yogg-Saron, not Yogg-Saron, why did I mention Yogg? Like Archimonde, where they just show up and they're like, yeah, I'm the big bad, you gotta deal with me now. It's not fun. It's not this triumphant moment of us beating a villain. It's just, oh, you're here now. All right, I guess I'll deal with you.
But when you beat Gul'dan with Illidan freaking absorbing him and crushing his skull, that was cool.
I mean, the reason why I think also Gul'dan worked is because Gul'dan deprived us of Varian and Vol'jin. Right. So when you got to defeat Gul'dan, it was this moment of we got payback at someone who robbed us of people we liked. So it's a good feeling when they do that. But Gul'dan was also built up since Warcraft 3, but also Warlords of Draenor.
And he was
So
in a
it
chair the
works.
whole time, Ben.
I'll let you have that one time during this podcast, and that's it.
So Ben, oh, sorry,
what's
go ahead.
that?
I think if you want to finish that thought, then we'll probably wrap down for this one.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I think first we have the mysterious pirate patch, whatever that's gonna be. I hope we get eye patches. I mean, it's just Skull and Bones, so it could be anything really.
It's interesting. They said it's for classic and modern players.
I wonder what that means. I'm guessing it has something to do with Xal'atath then, unless I don't know. I'm down. I'm down for the mystery behind it. I'm down for really anything. I mean, War WoW is always good on all spectrums, but
This is true.
the Dark Heart patch is gonna be very. I'm very uncertain of what that is, but it's basically a pre-patch to War Within, so I'm guessing we'll see Thrall, Anduin, and not Xal'atath. Well, we will see Xal'atath. Illyria take up the forefront, and you know me, I'm looking forward to more Thrall. He's my boy. He is. Look, there's Rexxar and there's Thrall. Those are my boys.
Ben and I lost it at BlizzCon when we saw the Thrall poster. We would point it out, like they had these little banners around Anaheim, and every time we saw the Thrall one, we'd point at it. We probably have like 50 pictures of it on our phone.
Guys, I have a confession. Every time we saw those posters, I like stopped and took a picture, and like after I took a picture, both Box and Jackalope were like yards away from me, and I had to race over. It was worth it though. I had to take a Thrall picture every time.
I know we bought the poster, but dude, those big banners, those are awesome.
Oh yeah, I have the poster in my room. I also have the War Within poster that my mom helped print it out for me.
Mine got wrinkled on the way in the plane back home. The Thrall one.
Oh, my Thrall one got wrinkled too. We kind of tried to roll it out. We tried like a whole thing with it, but ending the podcast, I'm looking forward to the future. This patch was really good, even if it was small. I loved all the moments. I loved the hugs. I loved the Eridicrons.
The Eridicrons.
I don't know that this is, as we've like talked about, but Dragonflight was really good for us after Shadowlands. It was a very, getting back to what makes us like WoW. But I feel like WoW is just in a really good place, and we have nothing but to look forward to stuff rather than being like, disappointed like we were in Shadowlands. Like we were very much, it was the Dreadlord saga. We were dreading it.
Oh my gosh. Ben, I want to just echo a lot of what you said. I really liked this patch. I liked the story setup, and I loved the wholesome moments. Like I said at the start of the podcast, I would give it like an A for story. Like I really think Blizzard nailed it here. But yeah, so let us know in the comments below what you all would like us to talk about soon. We'll be covering more of Dragonflight as well as the War Within. If you're interested in following us, it's Boximus Mike on X/Twitter and Bannerack on X/Twitter, where we shitpost, post videos, updates, anything you could think of. You'll usually find me just typing the word Garrosh to ban on there. So thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.